Welcome, everybody, and thanks for joining us on episode 50 of Health Talk with Dr. Cal. Woohoo! I'm Nikki Sterner, and today begins a series on what is disease. The medical definition of disease is an illness or sickness characterized by specific signs and symptoms. The natural definition of disease is when the body is no longer in a state of health, balance, or feeling well. When you're diagnosed with a disease, you may feel relieved to know what it is. Then you may be wondering how to fix it. The medical path may be to get a prescription. The natural path may be to remove what is toxic and provide the body with what it needs to heal. The natural definition feels more empowering and gives us hope that we can fix what is out of balance. Welcome, everybody, to Health Talk with Dr. Kel. I'm Nikki Sterner, and today is podcast number 50. Woohoo!
Woohoo!
I want to welcome Dr. Kel to the show. Hi, Dr. Kel.
Hi, Nikki.
And
Happy 50.
today, yeah, happy 50. Woo! What are we covering today, Dr. Kel, in our special 50th podcast?
Today we're going to talk about the definition of disease and what that definition means in relation to Western medicine and what it means from a more holistic or natural approach to health. And they're not the same.
Oh, interesting. Before we get into that, let's do the quote of the day.
Okay.
Okay. You must put your head into the lion's mouth if the performance is to be a success, by Winston Churchill. Now, what do you think of, Dr. Kel, when you hear that?
I think that's very fitting based on what we're soon to cover in today's podcast and many to come, because I feel like as a natural healthcare provider, I've always felt like I've been on the fringe of health care in the United States. And Western medicine is like a big, huge lion that sits there waiting to eat anyone or everyone who tries to claim what they're doing isn't quite right. And so, yes, we're jumping into the lion's mouth today.
Yes.
And not about trying to destroy Western medicine in any way. There are so many good things that medicine has come up with throughout the centuries, great progress, many benefits,
Yes.
but not everything's perfect, and many things can be improved. And so we're wanting to help people understand and know the differences, what other alternative ways of treatment there are out there available to them.
Yeah, it's almost like there can't just be one lion, there's more to it. So just not just the medical, add in the natural as well. Why not try things without side effects,
Yeah, rather than having the lion always trying to eat us, it'd be nice if we could just work together
Yes,
and
if we could get along.
just get along. To me, we're the lamb. We're the little lamb pouncing around, having a good time, enjoying life, and along comes the lion and eats us. And so let's hope we can with what we're going to discuss in the next few podcasts that can help with that problem.
Yes.
At least give people an understanding that we're of benefit to them and can be of benefit to them without destroying their understanding of what they've been taught all their lives about how the body works related to Western medicine and the way they eat and on and on and on.
Yes. Okay, what is disease?
What is disease? The word disease. Okay, in Western medicine, disease is a group of symptoms. At least my understanding of Western disease. That's the definition I've always understood. What I was taught in school is in chiropractic college, as well as in many seminars I've been to. Seems like it's always kind of a little bit of a discussion because we're taking a natural healthcare perspective as opposed to a Western medicine perspective. We're looking at ways that the body can heal itself. Whereas in Western medicine, what was done many, many, many years ago is the medical community thought, okay, what we need to do, and if you go back and really look at the history and how it's developed over the centuries and how it's developed in our modern age, it's interesting to me how you have the pharmaceutical companies and not going to name names or people, but very wealthy people in the world were the ones that began creating the pharmaceutical companies. And we can look at human beings from this perspective. Let's see, someone walks into your office and this person has a group of symptoms, and they have 10 different symptoms. And then another person walks in and they have 5 symptoms, and another person walks in, on and on and on. So you have all these people coming in with all these different symptoms, right? And so the medical community, the scientists got together and said, okay, let's see, these 5 people out of we're going to take these 10 symptoms or 20 symptoms, and anybody who comes in and sees the doctor and they have 10 of the 20 symptoms, we're going to say they have this disease. And so on and so forth. And that's how we've come up with all these diseases. And that's how you're categorized when you walk into a medical doctor's office, and he begins to take your history and your current symptoms and runs tests, comes back, and the end result is this list of symptoms you have. So then he looks at his, either he knows right away or he goes and takes a look and decides, okay, you've got this disease. And oftentimes people get misdiagnosed, and I'm sure you've met people that have been misdiagnosed because oftentimes those symptoms overlap. And then in time they learn, some other symptoms pop up, and so maybe they say, oh, wait, no, you don't have this disease, you've got this disease. And so then the drug companies have said, okay, we have 10 of these symptoms that are very common to a given disease, given disorder. And those, we've discovered that, for instance, let's say you've got high cholesterol.
Okay.
And so cholesterol is created in the liver. And when you go in and get a test, by the way, if you look back in time, and connected to both blood pressure as well as cholesterol, and those are billion-dollar industries, by the way, cholesterol meds and heart meds, blood pressure meds. It's a huge industry. But the whole perspective is let's cover up those symptoms. Oh, you got high cholesterol? Let's lower your cholesterol. Well, how do these cholesterol lowering drugs work? They inhibit the production of cholesterol in the liver. Because when you eat cholesterol, for years and years and years, I remember as a kid, eggs are causing high cholesterol. Don't eat so many eggs. Now, more and more research as time's gone on has shown that it's not the cholesterol you eat that increases your cholesterol in your bloodstream. It's the production of cholesterol in the liver. So your body's breaking it all down and reconstituting it in the liver. And there's a reason the body is making more cholesterol. That, at least from my understanding, is pretty much ignored by the medical community. They don't really think about why are you so much, and they don't teach people so much about how to lower their cholesterol naturally, or even not even that direction. It's why is your liver producing more cholesterol? Something's going on inside your body that's causing the increase in cholesterol. Well, from a medical perspective, it's let's give you the cholesterol drug. It's easy. We've developed these drugs to inhibit the liver from making more cholesterol because we believe cholesterol is bad. Well, guess what? I disagree with that. You need a certain amount of cholesterol in your system. And to me, if I go in and I get a test and I have high cholesterol, that triggers back to me that something else is going on in my system that's not right. Something's not working correctly. And I need to go figure out what that thing is. And most likely it's tied to your gut and the function of your microbiome and on and on and on. Anyway, we'll get into more detail in future podcasts about those kinds of things. But from a medical perspective, a disease is a group of symptoms and a label. Okay? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
From a natural perspective, we take the word disease and break it down into 2 words, or sort of 2 words. The word dis and the word ease. Dis-ease. So basically, you no longer are in a state of health because you don't feel well anymore. So when you think of dis-ease, you're uncomfortable, right? You're no longer in a state of balance. You're no longer in a state of feeling well. You're in a state of dis-ease. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So that's more the natural perspective, that something's going on. Something's, like we've talked about in the last few podcasts, about signs and symptoms that your body's telling you to recognize something's going on in your body that isn't right, and telling you need to do something about it, and helping you recognize what those are. That's what those last 4 podcasts were on. So what we're talking about is that dis-ease has occurred. Okay, you just have to recognize it and then learn what to do about it. What you're going to get from Western medicine is drugs that will cover up those symptoms. Now, I'm not going to say that the medical community doesn't search for cures. In fact, they can say all kinds of things that naturalists or people that create supplements and promote natural healing can't say. We can't make any claims. It's against the law for anybody to claim they can cure cancer unless it's an approved treatment here in the United States by the FDA, et cetera, et cetera. All that has to be approved. And if you use the word that I have a cure for cancer, you can go to jail and lose your license, et cetera, et cetera. Wow. So that's why so many of these groups, like the Gershons out of San Diego, the Gershon Treatment for Cancer, they have a facility in San Diego, but their clinic where people receive treatment is in Tijuana, Mexico, because it's illegal for them to do these things in the United States. And they've been around for years. So to me, it's one of my favorite ones because they have been around for years. They've survived the test of time, you might say.
Yeah.
And have, but like anything else, does it work for everybody? No. Some people are too far gone. Some people have, we're not going to go deep into that. We will do segments on cancer in the future and give you the medical and the natural. We'll have discussions on those means of therapy. We don't treat cancer, and we're not claiming we treat cancer in any way. But we're going to discuss it. Back to talking about the definitions of disease. We're going to get into in the future podcasts about, for example, did you know, Nikki, that there's over 80, now again, this is the medical definition of disease, there are over 80 autoimmune diseases.
Wow.
Separate ones, labeled separately, and of course there's several, out of those 80, there's a few that are much more common than others. And we'll kind of talk about some of those as we go along, but that's huge. Think about it. And more research is proving that a lot of these autoimmune disorders, and basically what it is your immune system has become overactive, and your immune system is seeing parts of your own body as foreign objects, and basically starting to destroy that, whether it's your joints or your nervous system, et cetera, et cetera. Different ones tend to target different organ systems in the body. Everything from your brain to your nerve tissue to your heart and lungs and joints and skin and muscles, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, all become targets of your immune system. So instead of helping you stay alive, it's destroying you from the inside out. So we'll get more into those kinds of things. And we always, anytime anybody comes into our clinic with an autoimmune disorder, we always look at the gut first. Always. Because it's always tied back to that. It's always tied back to the function of your gut, your microbiome, the food you're eating, the things you're exposed to. Sometimes, like in your case, in your history, you've been exposed to things like mold, and so there are environmental factors tied to those autoimmune disorders as well. But there's many things people can do naturally for these kinds of problems. Most people with those kinds of disorders are connected to or have those conditions, and they give them pain in some way, right? They're dealing with pain, and that's usually what leads them to seek help. They do, yes. Or they have, we're not going to get into that today. We're going to do more as time goes on and get into more specifics about it. I just wanted to do a general podcast today, giving you the idea of what's coming up and what we're going to talk about. Did you have any questions related to what we've discussed so far, Nikki?
So it sounds like the Western definition for disease is like a group of symptoms, and they're looking to fix your symptoms with a prescription, versus the natural perspective is You're no longer in a state of health when you have disease because it's dis-ease. You're not feeling well. And so you're trying to recognize and learn what to do about it and make changes. That's basically what I got from the two different definitions of disease.
Yes, that's really what it comes down to. The direction, the philosophy, the perspective of Western medicine. We have a little more time here. I kind of want to go into, we're not conspiracists here. We don't look for conspiracy theories or imagine that, these groups are all working together for the ultimate goal to achieve this thing or other. But it is a bit ironic when I look at the way things work. It's easy to become a conspiracy theorist from a viewpoint of the medical system, and I'll bring that up. I find it fascinating when we look at how our system in America works, because it all works together and it's a fine-tuned engine. Unfortunately, that engine is not about benefiting the human being and the human being's health. It's about putting money in the pocket of people who are very wealthy. And if you want to call that a conspiracy, up to you. My point being is it all works together. It's just kind of funny how it does. But look at what's going on here in the United States. And oh, by the way, I read recently, and it horrible thing going on in Ukraine. Of course, we're all aware of Russia's invasion, and all think it's a horrible thing. But one light in the tunnel that I noticed the other day, they said McDonald's and other fast food restaurants are pulling out of Russia. I thought, wow, great for the Russians. They're not going to eat that crap anymore.
Right.
They're not taking on the Western diet, which is going to make them more ill. So anyway, if you look at the United States, we are entrenched with advertising from the time we're small to go eat fast food, to get things quickly, to eat processed foods. More money is made. It is good for, in one perspective, though I think the economy could do well in other ways, to keep the money moving. When we go spend money on fast food, it gives people jobs, it keeps people employed. But I think we could figure out better ways to keep people employed and run the economy. Europe is doing better, Asia's doing better than we are from a health perspective and eating better foods and having better diets. Unfortunately, they're adopting the Western diet. And ironic how we promote, commercialism promotes the Western diet throughout the world. And if you look at it from my perspective, I just find it funny how the Western diet damages your body. It disrupts your gut flora. It causes dysfunction of your organ systems. The alcohol does this. The coffee does this. The caffeine in coffee damages you. Everybody drinks coffee. Everybody has alcohol now and then. Those things the sugar is damaging to your system, and all these things are promoted. Buy more and more, use more and more, consume more and more, with very little thought or discussion on what it's doing to the human body. So then you're eating this crappy diet and you start having health problems. Well, what does that do? That gets you to go to the doctor, and the doctor gets to look at those symptoms and say, okay, you have high cholesterol. You have a heart murmur. You have high blood pressure. Oh, here's your drug. Because of promotion of the Western diet and everybody following it, sends more people to the doctor and to the hospital. Yep. In turn, more medications. Well, I hate the word medication in that sense, because although it works, it's medicating you. It's making you unaware of what's really going on in your body. So it's medicating you in that way. It's not fixing you. It's just covering up those symptoms. So you take those drugs. So now you support the drug company. You supported the medical doctor. You supported the drug company, and you supported the crappy food industry. And the money keeps moving. People keep working. Granted, it gives people jobs. It does. And we have to have an economy where people are able to work and sustain themselves. Even industry is based on that. Look at all the pollution over the past many years. The ecologists and all that stuff have fought to get the toxins out of the fumes coming out of all of our manufacturing plants, and things have been improved there, but there's still lots of stuff. Think of all the stuff in in the 70s and 80s and 90s and beyond to today, where even today they find new things where there's a huge amount of pollution, the fracking causing pollution in the groundwater, the on and on and on. You get where I'm going here. The cycle all works together to keep people going to the doctor and buying more drugs,
Right.
and I look at older people today. I find it very interesting how we see our retirement homes here in the United States. The medical community, the drug industry has figured out how to keep people alive longer. For instance, my father I would bet he probably survived an extra 5-6 years because of Coumadin and other drugs that he was on. Was he in a physical, happy state? No. Could he do much with his life? No. He couldn't got to where he really even couldn't take walks anymore, or even going a few times around the block, because his energy levels dropped and dropped and dropped. His vascular system was worse and worse. My point being is, a lot of people, we prolong people's lives, but their suffering goes on and on and on. And so people endure in their older ages. They live longer, but they suffer longer. And I don't get that. I don't really understand that philosophy. People are so entrenched with the other thing that perturbs me too about the medical community. I guess today's podcast is about running down things. But I get so frustrated with the idea of how we are so intent about keeping people alive longer that we lose out on caring about the quality. And we're I always love it when in all these, my wife and I, we like to watch the medical shows, the hospital shows and stuff like that, I suppose because of the drama, the intensity at times, but sometimes we laugh at them, sometimes we cry about what they talk about and do. But I always love it when they say, we saved somebody, we saved a life. And from my perspective, nobody saves anybody's life. They may have prolonged their life. They get to stay on the earth a little longer. They didn't save them. They're not saved because eventually they're going to die no matter what. And that's my perspective. I don't know how you feel about it, but I just feel like it's basically the misuse of a word. And they're not really saving anybody, but it sounds dramatic and it sounds wonderful, and they get to feel good about it. But saving somebody only for them to exist in a state of misery for the next many years of their life, to me, makes no sense at all. Of course, I have a perspective on our eternal existence that is different maybe from others in the sense that, I can see from a perspective of someone who has no belief that there's anything beyond this life, that our existence is over. I can see from that perspective you'd want to stay here for a long time and fight and fight and fight to be here as long as you possibly can, because when you die, there's nothing. So suffering from that perspective would be better than no existence whatsoever, I suppose. But from my perspective, since life does go on, we do continue to exist, and time will tell what form that will be, depending on your religion and what will ultimately actually happen, in the eons of time. But from my perspective, if I got to live in a state of chronic suffering and pain and agony, in that sense, I can see where, okay, medicate the heck out of me, give me that painkiller so I'm not in pain. But guess what?
Yeah, get comfortable.
But guess what? If that's the way I have to live, I'm good with moving on. My time at Disneyland isn't fun anymore. And it's not enjoyable anymore, so why wouldn't I want to move on? I don't see the point of being miserable being a benefit. Maybe temporary difficulty and misery is beneficial to us, but just recognizing that all I'm going to do is be miserable until everything quits completely working. But I got to keep doing that because I don't get that perspective. And some people at certain religions would think I'm wrong or say that we believe too, even though, we know there's a God and our spirit continues, you still got to fight to exist no matter what. I disagree. What's your perspective here as we close?
I was thinking about how you were talking about the Western diet and how it sends people to the hospital to get more medications and how it's kind of a cycle. And I was thinking back to people before we had the fast food, they were healthier, right? Because they were living a
Oh,
simpler,
yes. Not as many people needed to go to the doctor then.
right, way simpler food system and not as many preservatives and chemicals in our foods. And the simplicity of, and that's what a lot of the like paleo diets and that kind of thing try to get back to is like our ancestors and, you know, meat and vegetables and fruits and nuts and seeds and simple and keeping the processed foods, the junk, the big company food productions out of our houses, which is hard because we have
Well,
such a
and
fast
I find
life
it,
now.
I agree with you on that, but I find it funny how even with the paleo diet, everybody eventually commercializes it. Now we're selling processed foods for that.
It's true.
Yeah.
True. Because people want, I mean, people want quick,
Simple.
easy
Yes.
food today.
It
And so
unfortunately it does take more time, right?
it does take more time. But
They
I
it,
mean, better options are better options, but at some point you do have to go back to the simple foods to be healthy.
well, it's like Ocean Bay Naturals created an all natural and organic deodorant, but not to get off topic, but just to make a quick point.
Hmm.
Talking to my daughter-in-law, a lot of people have used it and are using it and are buying it and like it. But people understand who use natural deodorants that so you smell okay, you don't stink, and you have those that reduce sweating. And I get people complaining like, I don't want to sweat. No matter what, I don't want to sweat because I don't want to feel wet. Okay, great, but you understand sweating is actually healthy for you, so you need to sweat. Well, I don't care. And
Yeah.
somebody else says, you know what? I find that because of me and what I eat and how I am, I find your deodorant maybe only lasts 6-8 hours, and I need it to go for 15, whatever it might be. And so I got to reapply it. I'm like, great, reapply it. They're like, no, it's just a hassle to have to reapply. Oh, you don't have 30 seconds to go grab it and put some more on? That's what I'm talking about. Same thing with preparing food.
Yeah.
And a lot of people say, oh, I can't eat organic or I can't buy those things because those foods are more expensive. Guess what? Sometimes they're not that much more expensive. Sometimes I even found them cheaper. And most of the time, all the time, I would say on the long run, it's cheaper. Your healthcare costs are going to go down. Your need to see the doctor is going to be less. There's just many advantages to eating that way, and it's a small, the little extra effort required to eat that way is not that significant when you look at the overall long-term benefits. You got to slow down your life a little bit at times and decide really what matters and what's important, and it's not just making a buck.
Right. Yeah. Yes. Well, I think that is a great wrap up on the topic today. And I'm looking forward to getting into specific diseases and autoimmune conditions and cancer. And there's a lot that we can cover with this, Dr. Kell.
Yes, there'll be several podcasts coming up on all these things, and I hope people find it interesting and enlightening, because we always take a natural perspective and search for the natural ways that, again, the philosophy, our philosophy is the body has the ability to heal itself. Just remove the interference and supply it with what it needs to do that, and it can.
Yes. So thanks for listening, everyone. We drop our podcasts every Tuesday. Tag a friend, tag a family member, let them know what's going on. This may help them. And if you have any questions, you can email us at healthtalkwithdrkel@gmail.com. And that's DRKELL. Also, if you need standard process supplements, the website is holistichealth.standardprocess.com to order at a discounted rate. And also, thanks to our sponsor, Ocean Bay Naturals, for the wonderful products that they're putting out, natural and healing for the skin. And they work. They really do. So anything else, Dr. Kell?
You've covered it.
All right.
Thank you, Nikki, for your help and for being such a great host. Or we don't say hostess anymore, do we?
Yeah, that's true. Yes. Well, thanks, everybody. And thanks, Dr. Kell, Professor Kell, here every week.
I enjoy it. and I hope people are getting something out of it. That's all that really matters to me. It's worth the time and the effort to share what I know, and thanks for listening.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
While we make every effort to broadcast correct information, we are still learning. We will double-check all facts, but realize that medicine is a constantly changing science and art. One doctor may have a different way of doing things from another. We are simply presenting our views on how to live a healthy lifestyle that will be as evidence-based as possible. We welcome any comments, suggestions, or corrections of errors. We take no money from drug or device companies. By listening to this podcast, you agree not to use this podcast as medical advice to treat any medical condition in either yourself or others, including but not limited to patients that you are treating. Consult your own physician for any medical issues that you may be having. This entire disclaimer also applies to any guests or contributors to the podcast. Under no circumstances shall Dr. Kel Fullerton or any guests or any contributors to the podcast or any employees, associates, or affiliates of Dr. Kel Fullerton be responsible for damages arising from use of this podcast. This blog should not be used in any legal capacity whatsoever, including but not limited to establishing standard of care in a legal sense or as a basis of expert witness testimony. No guarantee is given regarding the accuracy of any statements or opinions made on this podcast. Our website, blog, and podcasts are all HIPAA compliant. While you may give your email address to subscribe to the website posts or to post information on the website blog, we will never share your email address or contact information with any third parties without your explicit permission. The contents of Health Talk with Dr. Kel podcast and the show notes are all copyrighted. All blog posts, podcasts, and show notes that are distributed to the public for free can be redistributed via hard copy or electronic copy for free only if Health Talk with Dr. Kel is included as the acknowledged author within the actual media that is being redistributed. The Health Talk with Dr. Kel podcast is a production of the Orange Stack, with executive producers Dr. Kel Fullerton and Eric Hammond and hosts Nikki Sterling.